to the Buddha as just a way of beginning my Dhamma Talk. This is a way of acknowledging that this doesn't come from me. It comes from generations behind me, all the way back to the Buddha, from my teachers and their teachers and their teachers' teachers, and so on, all the way back. It's a really beautiful thing. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So I want to speak this afternoon in a little more detail about Mudita itself. And then I will change gears a little bit to talk a little bit about the process. So mudita is often translated into English as empathetic joy. Either in English or in Italian, this causes confusion because mudita is just like metta, it is well-wishing. And it's well-wishing that's quite specific. It's well-wishing that inclines and is directed towards the good fortune of others. So it's being able to wish others well, even when things are going really well for them. Anyway, just like metta, it's not a particular emotional experience. So to call it empathetic joy emphasizes an emotion that can sometimes arise in the practice, but doesn't have to. One translation into English that I like a little better is gladness. But even this it doesn't emphasize the fact that there is the well-wishing as well. But please remember about mudita, it is primarily the well-wishing and in the face of the good fortune of somebody else, in spite of the good fortune of somebody else. Often people say about metta, they say, oh, I was trying to radiate metta for a benefactor, but everything's going so well for them, they don't need my metta. Metta is for everybody, regardless. Whether things are going well for them, whether things are going terribly for them. May they be well anyway. So that metta that inclines to somebody's misfortune is, of course, compassion. And the metta that inclines and notices somebody's good fortune is mudita. It's the capacity to open to the good fortune of somebody else so that it even, with all that, may they be happy and to still be able to wish them well. So even if we think that, no, somebody's life is going really well, they don't need any metta, even if we have that mistaken thought, we can still turn towards that person's good fortune and radiate metta anyway, even if that thought is there. So that's one thing that can get in the way of metta. This idea that metta is only for people who, quote unquote, need it because of something that's happening in their life that might not be so nice or something that we are afraid might happen for them. Another thing that can get in the way of the mudita, of course, is our own response to what somebody else has. And there's so many potential layers of reactivity about this. It can be simple envy or jealousy. It can be judgment about them, like they don't deserve what they have. It can be a kind of a cynicism about the state of the world. It's like, oh, nobody needs that stuff. All sorts of things can come up to get in the way. But I want to shine a particular light on what are called in the texts the near and far enemies. Just as metta has near and far enemies, as you know, so does mudita. So, of course, the far enemy is that aspect of mudita that is the opposite, not the aspect of mudita, but that state that is the opposite of mudita. It's far away. It's not subtle. It's usually pretty obvious. The thing that makes it hard to see is that we don't like admitting to ourselves that we feel this. But it can be the lenses through which we see everything. And this is, of course, envy or jealousy. And these are such interesting mind states. They're yucky, but they're really interesting. I'll have a little more to say when I talk about purification. But what makes them so interesting is how our ego is braided into them. And how our view of ourselves prevents us from seeing them. I had a very, very good friend confront me. This is quite a long time ago. When I was in the middle of a real difficult situation where somebody they got a job that I thought I should have gotten, and they got it instead. And I was just stewing about this, and she just looked at me and she said, "Oh, there's so much envy." It stopped me in my tracks because I didn't see the envy. I saw the rationalization, the self-justification, the anger, the judgment about that person and myself. I saw all that, but I didn't see the envy. Just seeing it is so powerful, and acknowledging it is so powerful. And there's a lot that gets in the way of seeing that and admitting that. We come, most of us, from a Christian culture where envy is one of the 10 deadly sins. So we think of it as evil and terrible, and we don't want to admit to ourselves that we might actually experience this. Fortunately, Buddhism doesn't have that weight on it. It's just a mind state. That's all. So we don't have to make it into anything huge. It's just envy. And then acknowledge it if it's there and unplug from feeding it. Remove the nutriment that we offer it by following it. And remove the nutrition that we offer it by resisting it. Just don't pick it up. That's the main thing. Acknowledge it without getting involved. Then continue with the practice. It's very simple. So that's the far enemy of mudita, envy. And I'll probably think of a few more things to say about these two states when we get to the difficult person, because this is where they tend to really come off. The near enemy is what you can think of as the false friend. So this is a state that imitates mudita, that we mistake for mudita, but it actually isn't. So the near enemy of mudita is a state of gladness that is effusive. I think of it as that, imagining as almost a cartoon. The near enemy is somebody who, when something good happens to us, they come up, "Oh, I'm so happy for you," and it's so, it's like way too much. And we, especially in, the part of the practice where we're really beginning to get in touch with the gladness on account of somebody else, we lose touch with the well-wishing, and we get lost in this emotional fog of happiness. And there's nothing wrong with happiness, don't get me wrong. But getting lost in it and being like a bit of a helium balloon is not very useful. So all of the Brahma Viharas are very grounded. So if you really connect with the good fortune of somebody and you find yourself beginning to feel like that helium balloon about to float away, that's the near enemy. Just notice that. Just as with the far enemy, there's nothing you need to do about it. Don't make it into a problem either. So just don't hold on to the string of that helium balloon and float off. That's all. Yeah, don't follow it. Don't feed it. So what mudita is and what it isn't. And then the process, the how the practice unfolds and how it purifies the mind. And what are we doing with this practice is the next thing I want to begin to talk about tonight. Just as with the metta practice, the process and the actual unfolding are very, very similar. Because any Brahma Vihara practice, first of all, is a concentration practice. And then that particular Brahma Vihara practice cultivates that particular state. So metta bhavana cultivates concentration and metta. Karuna bhavana cultivates compassion and concentration. And mudita bhavana cultivates mudita and concentration. We develop a skill. And that skill is the access to mudita, which is actually a natural state when the mind is pure. If this sounds familiar to you, it should, because I've said this many, many times about metta. It's the same. So the Buddha said, whatever one thinks about or frequently ponders, that becomes the inclination of their mind and heart. So in the practice, moment to moment to moment to moment, each moment, if we're, lucky and the practice is going fairly smoothly, each moment we are inclining the mind again and again and again to this gladness, to this well-wishing in the face of somebody's good fortune. And through this repeated inclination and through the deepening of concentration, the mind becomes increasingly pure. And with the purification of mind, mudita naturally arises. It emerges into the mind stream very naturally, like water coming out of a spring. But it's not a linear process. It's not as though we access the mudita once and that's it. We're set for life. That would be nice, but it doesn't happen. So here's where the second aspect comes in. We develop the skill of inclining. We also develop a habit. So I think it was Sophia said this morning, she was talking about how when she lost her focus, very naturally the mind went to metta. This is a really perfect description of what happens when we have a particular habit of the mind. When things get difficult, the mind just goes there. And so when we cultivate mudita, we cultivate a parallel habit. We have metta, we have karuna, we have mudita, we have upekkha, all of these 4 Brahma Viharas. We can cultivate each of them so that they each begin to develop a strength of habit. And this is so, so beautiful because when we deeply practice vipassana bhavana or any of the Brahma Vihara bhavanas, we end up with many, many habits, 5 of them particularly: a vipassana habit, a metta habit, a karuna habit, a mudita habit, and upekkha habit. To have all 5 of these is incredibly powerful. We may not experience this now, I don't know about any of you. I don't have all 5 of them equally strong. But this is our universal potential. And it's just very liberating to know that. And what's so wonderful about even one of these habits, let's take mudita. What's so wonderful about mudita is when we cultivate the habit of inclining there, it doesn't require very specific conditions. It's very simple. It requires another being that we relate to with some, maybe even very small experience of good fortune. And it requires that we are able to connect with that. It doesn't need us to be meditating in a particular way or doing a particular thing. It's nothing special in terms of how we are arranging our mind and body. As Ekaterina shared with us this morning, I thought it was so beautiful. It was like, there's almost an infinite number of ways to express this gladness and to wish people and other beings well in the face of fortune. And there's an almost infinite number of experiences of good fortune that we can encounter and rejoice in. We don't have to have direct individual experience of that person or being's good fortune. We can just rejoice in that, open to that, be okay with somebody having something good in their life. So I want to zoom out just a little bit, and I may talk about this more, but I want to speak a little bit about the purification aspect of this practice. Really, really shows us where we can't do that. So I've talked about the practice as developing habit and skill. It's also purification. And this is what makes the practice challenging, because it shows us where mudita is blocked, where we can't open to the good fortune of others, specifically or generally. And I have more to say about this. I only want to speak about it tonight in a very general way, but this is an incredibly powerful practice, because what gets in the way of mudita, quite specifically, are a number of mind states that are the roots of anything unwholesome, any other unwholesome mind state. I won't say much tonight, except to say it all boils down to ego. And that's modern parlance, not the Buddha's parlance, but it's a shorthand. And ego is so incredibly integral to envy and jealousy. Envy and jealousy are dripping ego. I mean, they're just saturated in it. And this is what makes them so difficult to work with. We don't want to really connect with this. It's just too difficult, too yucky, too hard to admit to, too many things. But it is incredibly liberating. The Dalai Lama speaks about the world of beings in such a beautiful way that really touches mudita. So he speaks about happiness and how, well, it's nice if we're happy, we want to be happy, this is normal. But if we can rejoice in the happiness of others, like just other people, all 8.5 billion of them, how much more scope and potential there is to be happy if it's not just about me. If we just take a fraction of those beings and cultivate the ability to be happy on their behalf, we're going to be a lot more happy ourselves. And when we notice good fortune, that's already a change. as I've already said, and as a couple of you have already mentioned, how different it is when we begin to walk around looking at the good fortune of other people, how different the world feels. So I'm going to stop here, I think, and just leave you with this as kind of we say the carrot that leads us, the carrot on the stick that keeps the horse of the practice going forward. And I know many of you have already experienced in this short period of time windows into this. So please keep looking, please keep developing and inclining to this. And I guarantee you, as I said last night, you will be surprised. So I thank you for your kind attention and offer you really heartfelt well-wishing for a wonderful, deepening, interesting day of evening of practice, with heartfelt thanks to Donatella's beautiful voice. Thank you.